Hey y'all, it's Krypton Critics. I'm here to review The Road to El Dorado, which came out in 2000. It's an animated film. It is a family film. Uh, in this time, they were trying to do something different. They were trying to mix CGI with traditional type Disney-esque artwork, where find very defined lines around characters and have them act a little wacky. Uh, Not a lot of people saw it when it first came out. It was a box office bomb, and a lot of people have basically given an type of review. Not, I haven't found a lot of people that really love this movie, and not really anybody that hates it. I really enjoy this movie, and I think it is, definitely underrated film. Uh, Even though this film, highly deals with the El Dorado myth that there's a city of gold in the Aztec Empire, and we're dealing with Aztecs here. You know, this did come around another Mesoamerican family animated movie, and that is The Emperor's New Groove. Emperor's New Groove came out months later, but this one came out before it. Now, I don't care if I see similarities in the movie, long as it's done well, and I say it is. We follow two main Spanish young men, Tulio and Miguel. Tulio is played by Kevin Kline. Miguel is played by Kenneth Branagh. They meet the Aztec characters in the the fictionalized El Dorado in this film. They meet love interest Shell, played by Rosa Perez, the high priestess, high priest Tzekel-Kan, played by Armand Asante. They meet the chief of this tribe, Chief Tanabuk, played by Edward James Olmos, and they're on the run away from the bad situation back at home because they used to be con artists. They would roll sevens all the times because they had dice but only threes and fours. So yeah, and they're also on the run away from Hernan Cortez, because while they were on the run away from law enforcement back at home, they just happened to get onto Cortez's boat while he expedites to the New World. If you know your history right, Hernan Cortez is a real person. He is fictionalized in this version, but the date does match up. 1519 is when he did leave. This is where the movie takes place, and where he will eventually, exploit and try to completely genocide the Aztecs forever. And that's a kind of awkward thing watching this movie. I'll get to that eventually, but yeah, I really enjoy the brotherhood, slash friendship between Tulio and Miguel. They are charismatic. They have a lot of great lines. They do develop probably more Tulio than Miguel, because Tulio has a harder time letting go of his selfish nature. When they come to El Dorado, they tell the native people there that they are gods, and they appear very similarly to like a prophesized shrine that they have, where it has two men riding a creature, and the creature that they ride upon is a horse named Etivio, and he's played by Frank Welker. Hernan Cortez, I forgot to mention, but he's played by Jim Cummings. And so they think they're gods, not necessarily because they're white. They don't mention that. They also don't refer to them as savages, like another, movie from around this time, Pocahontas. But yeah, just overall, this movie's fun. It's especially gorgeous. There are some shots that are like breathtaking, like how much detail they put into it. They combined, the experimental, 3D model CGI with the traditional, cartoon medium. Music, majority of the score slash soundtrack is by Elton John. I think like two songs done by Zimmerman. Say Hans Zimmer, sorry. Tulio becomes as the love interest of Shell. When we first bump into her, she is a thief and she was trying to steal a gold item. And she's a very interesting character. She doesn't just play, I don't think she really ever plays a damsel in distress or just a woman that gets in the way. She does have a lot of her own identity. A big part of her identity is that she wants in on the whole scam of, being treated like a god. She ends up helping Tulio and Miguel in their, them being, con artists and all. And they do learn a lot. I mean, they kind of give up the dream of wanting gold and all the riches that come with being in El Dorado for almost getting close to sacrificing themselves for the people that they have become accustomed to, especially Miguel. Miguel was the first one to really try to attach himself to the people, not to be like, I am your god and you will do as I say. That was more Tulio. He was putting smoke and mirrors on to make it seem like it just happens to be merciful, and he gets riches and he gets to bang Chell, and I don't blame him. She's bad as shit. But Miguel, he plays more of like sympathetic savior to the people, and yeah, that was pretty like sweet for him to like connect to the people. There are plenty of music numbers in this movie. I'll say they all work in their own way. My favorite one is the song about them being a god. I always like listening to that one. As I mentioned before, I've seen this movie before. It's been several years since I have. Back then there were some messages that really didn't get in my head. Like, I understood that they become less selfish, but I didn't get the whole idea of like, Tulio and Miguel being very different and trying to take the approach of being a god in different ways. And while I was watching it this time, I'm like, you could take it in more than one way, as if they endorse blindly following a god or not, because the priest of this tribe or city or whatever, he is corrupt as hell. He's the antagonist of the movie, and he's deliciously evil. He has some of the best sadistic lines in the movie. He's freaking he is like an old school Disney animated villain. Even though I know this is not Disney, it does have a lot of similarities to a Disney animated film. I put him right there and as enjoyable as Scar. Oh, okay, not that enjoyable, but similar in that way. Maybe more like Ursula. I think Scar is probably one of the greatest villains in any cartoon. I don't want to besmirch his name, but yeah, Tzekel-Kan. Even though it's hard for me to say his name, he's very entertaining. Chief Tanabuk, even he like has even some dimension. Like when he's told to have a boat made because Miguel starts having a slight falling out with his his good friend Tulio, because Tulio still in the mindset of being selfish and wanting the gold. He like, oh, well, I'm taking my gold. I'm going back to Spain. I'm going to live like a king. Miguel, he's not comfortable with that. He wants to be there for the people. He quickly gets, the moral of the story. Tulio takes a bit, and it's even more, you know, satisfying to see when he changes. But yeah, the chief and Miguel have a talk, and it's very man to man. It feels real. It was just like a few days ago that nobody questioned them being gods, but Tzekel-Kan, he caught on it pretty quick that they're not, and he kind of thought it was funny that, maybe since they're false, I will get all the political leg room I can to exploit that. And then he's like, well, now I want to be the power of a god. So yeah, you can take it in many different interpretations, because he plays God, but he also exploits people with the God that they already believe in. So I guess the moral of the story is, be careful to who you follow. Definitely. It doesn't just have the message of don't be selfish, don't be a dick, type storyline. But Tzekel-Kan is definitely that in a nutshell. The conquistadors, they show up in the same place, El Dorado. It was a kind of like a myth/wives' tale that Hernan Cortez was looking for the city of gold, and clearly he never found it because it doesn't exist. And I was getting to this before, but it's kind of awkward to know that in the end it works out for everybody except for the bad guy. He gets taken away by conquistadors because Miguel and Tulio and Chell, they figure out a way to knock over the like giant columns in the way of the city, because there's a waterway that connects a cave, the jungle, and El Dorado in this film. They decided to block it and have a bunch of rocks go in between the waterfall that connects, the city and the rest of the wilderness. So, Hernan is like, well, it's there's nothing here. Tzekel-Kan, who previously had awoken a jaguar statue to, do his bidding and to attack El Dorado so he could be, the new god. That fucking fails, and he is thrown into like a whirlpool that's kind of like a, it's like flush anyone away. And beginning of the movie, they start like giving it gold because they believe that it goes to I think it's the god of the underworld, when actually it just is a channel throughout the small section in the jungle. And he shows up in Conquistadors and completely sells out to the white man, to says, oh, you can attack them, and I get a little bit of that gold because I helped you out. Like, oh, fuck you. I mean, that's this great villain, and that's so awesome, and like, oh yeah, you did that, very like emperor-esque. But god damn it, that's a dick move. One thing I do enjoy is the Mesoamerican culture is prevalent and doesn't seem like usually it doesn't seem like it's just there as a set piece. It does seem like it actually is part of the culture, even though it is wildly fast and loose with history and actual representation. It feels genuine in a cartoon sense. Nothing seems, it usually doesn't seem too stereotypical. Even though there are some like mythical animals, but you can just chalk it up as that it's a mythical city. It has magic shit, whatever. I mean, Tzekel-Kan uses fucking magic to awaken a fucking jaguar statue. Get over it, They kind of Americanize the game of pit. I would think, but they do still have these sacrifices as being a major part of the culture. That goes without saying in Aztec culture that was a real thing. They didn't have anyone's heart taken out. That would have been fucking awesome, but then again, it is a kids movie. We do get a little bit of blood, more than I was expecting. But the only I gotta mention this, back and forth. There's a lot of good jokes, and there were actual moments that made me laugh and really made me care for the characters. But as I'm thinking about it after I watched the movie, I'm like, the conquest by Hernan Cortez in actual history, it started in 1519 and ended in 1521 with him defeating the Aztecs and all of the local native tribes. So that kind of made me think of wow, I'm glad our heroes got out when they could, and El Dorado is safe from rocks, but yeah, the sequel has to be scary as hell if they were actually going to continue with Hernan Cortez and his taking over of this land. But I suggest seeing it. It's freaking fun. I wouldn't say it's hilarious, but there are funny moments. And I really do care for the characters, and I really did enjoy it. I give this movie a B+. I suggest seeing it. It's part of the Critical Critics. I love you.